Okay, well, welcome to Cal Football Early Signing Period press conference here. We've got Coach Wilcox here for you. As normal, we'll go ahead and get started. If you do have a question for Coach, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll call upon you, and we'll get going. I think most of you know the routine here. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with Jeff Ferrato. Go ahead, Jeff.
Justin, how you doing?
I'm well, Jeff. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Can you just sort of give us an overall evaluation of what you have here and what you think about it? And also, if you could talk specifically about Byron Cardwell.
Yeah. It's a great start to the recruiting cycle. I think we're all used to in the past of being the signing day being the end. It's really just kind of the first step now in terms of how your roster is going to shake up. So we think it's a really good start. We signed 14, and that will grow into January and as we hit February. 14 today, 9 of those on defense, 4 on offense, a big athlete, some transfers, 5 transfers, and one of those being Byron Cardwell, who you asked about. And he was we recruited him heavily out of high school. We're in it till the very end, and then he went to Oregon, and then when he got in the transfer portal, we kept those communications going this past couple weeks, and we're able to get him on a visit and committed and signed up. So very talented guy. We knew about him, like I said, for a long time, and we got a heck of a back in Jaden Naughton, and the way we're going to play offense, we need at least 2 running backs, and so I feel great about him joining us.
Jeff, let us go ahead and get to others, Jeff, and then we'll come back for follow-ups. We just have several others that would like to jump in. So if we could go to Steve Kroner next. Go ahead, Steve.
Justin, happy holidays.
Happy holiday.
What's the difference, if a major difference, between recruiting a high school kid and recruiting somebody in the portal?
Probably the time you get to know them. High school kids, a lot of them, you have built relationships over time. And in the transfer portal, you have a lot less time. Now, a couple of these guys, let's see, Byron and, Kalen Moore, we recruited out of high school, so we knew them prior because we recruited them out of high school. But, a couple of these young guys, Sergio Allen being one, Noel, we didn't, as a staff, know as well. Trey Watson knew him because he recruited him to UNLV. But, that process really happens within a short time frame, a couple weeks or so. So just a little bit different than we're all accustomed to. But I think they've been through the process once before, so they're specific on what they're looking for, and we can be real informative in that recruiting process the second time around, and hopefully be real efficient, with those transfer portal guys. But it is different.
We'll go ahead and move to Jim McGill, and then we will take follow-ups once everybody's got a chance to ask their first question. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Justin, the guys that are moving on by going into the portal have already been announced, but I'm assuming there's going to be several more that are just going to be taking their graduation and moving on and maybe won't announce. Any idea if there's going to be many in that category?
Yeah, I think are you talking about like the 6-year guys or the 4th, 5th, 6-year guys that are just going to be moving on with graduation? Yeah, and I'll let those guys announce it. We're aware of all of them, kind of what they're planning on. Now, there is there are guys that are still making decisions. However, one of the final ones that we were informed today, which we're excited about, one of our biggest recruits of the day is Matt Cindric, who's going to be joining us for his 6th year. So that was good news to hear today. But some of these other guys will be, as you mentioned, finishing out their academic career and moving on.
Without specific names, can you share approximate numbers right now?
Well, here, I'd put it like this. We signed, 14 today. I would anticipate by February, we're probably going to sign somewhere between 20 and 25. I know that's quite a range, but that's the likely number.
Got it.
And then even more potentially in the summer.
Okay, we'll go to Ryan Young from Rivals.
Hey Justin, you referenced the way you want to play offense moving forward. Can you give us some more insight on what Jake wants to do on that side of the ball and the process of finding him? How did you kind of get to him in the end?
Yep. Jake, one of the really impressive things about him is he's done it different ways. I think you look at his track record of offense and quarterback play, and it really speaks for itself. And one of the things, if you watch the different offenses, is they're not necessarily the same year to year. There were certain years they were more 12 personnel, certain years more 11, some years more 10, like here in 2016. So ultimately, the players on the roster will drive the personnel groupings, but the threat of tempo, the ability to isolate skill players, and we feel like we got some really good skill players on our team. The ability to isolate those guys, give the quarterback answers, and make it QB friendly. I think all that shows up. The run game, and having Jake and then now Coach Blesh, who's done an unbelievable job in the run game. I think that's going to be a really fun pairing for our offense, and so. The roster will ultimately decide, the strengths, but he's done a great job again wherever he's been of, the run game, the RPO game, the isolation of the skill players, and making sure we get our best players the ball in the best situations that we can. So in getting to Jake early on in the process, as we were going to hire a new offensive coordinator, we identified him as a guy that would be a great fit because he had been here before, because of his track record, because of his recruiting prowess at the within the offense, especially the quarterback position. We thought that was going to be very, very important. And so I met with him early on, just after the season finished. And to be honest, I didn't know that we were going to be able to sign him up, and we were able to continue the talks, and he and I had great conversations, and the people who were here with him in 2016 in the building, everybody says the same thing about him. He's just a great guy to work with. He's great with the players. He coaches them really well. He coaches them to be accountable. He's a really strong recruiter, and so when the opportunity came for us to be able to hire him, we jumped at it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and start with follow-ups. We'll go to Jeff Ferrato. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Justin, you didn't address this specifically, but do you have an answer from Jack Plummer yet?
We do. Here's what I'll say. Both, Jack and Kai, who've been great for us, all those guys have individual decisions to make. I'll tell you, we're going to be very active in recruiting the quarterback position, high school and transfer quarterbacks. And again, those guys have done a great job for us. It's not my place to announce their intentions, but really appreciate both of them, and we're going to be active in pursuing quarterbacks moving forward.
And if I can ask one more, you didn't sign, other than getting Cindric back, which is obviously good news for you,
Mm-hmm.
You didn't sign the offensive lineman in this class, and that would seem to be a priority. Tell us where that stands.
Yeah, it is a priority, and we will continue throughout the month of January to recruit that position very heavily. I would expect that to change. So we've already secured some visits, but it is a priority for us, and it's also a competitive environment. We want to make sure that the guys that we are bringing in here have the ability to help us.
And you're looking for, in some cases, transfer guys with some experience?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we'll move to Steve Kroner from the Chronicle.
Actually, Jeff just asked one of my questions, so I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else have questions for Coach? We'll go to Ryan Young, or actually Jeff got in next. Go ahead, Jeff.
Justin, you signed up 3 transfer DBs, Noah Williams, Kalen Moore, Matthew Littlejohn. Can you talk about each of them a little bit, what positions they're likely to play and what they bring you?
Yeah, corners and nickels. I do think a couple of them have the ability to play multiple positions. We wanted to add competition into that room. We really like the DBs coming back, but that room needs more and more competition. So I think all those guys, when we watched them, we felt like would have the ability to come in here and help us. We knew Kalen. We saw two of them play up close and personal, and then Matt, who we recruited, this fall, did some really good things at his junior college. So, again, one of those positions we felt like we were going to go heavy on in this year's class.
A cornerback or nickel more than safety?
Correct.
And can you talk about Isaiah Hunter, who's a pretty highly regarded wideout from Salinas?
Yeah, really talented all-around athlete. He's got good size, and he can really run. We feel like he's got a really high ceiling because of those physical tools, and I think he's just scratching the surface as a football player. But he did a lot of things, multi-sport athlete, so we're looking forward to getting him on the field.
And one more, if I can. Frederick Williams III. Usually you see a guy listed as an athlete who's either going to be a DB or a running back or a receiver. But he's apparently 6'5", 250. Where do you envision him playing for you?
Yeah, he's actually bigger than that. He's about 260 plus right now. He was a high school receiver, I think 2 years ago, and then he grew a lot, and he's now a really big frame athlete, and he's going to be a D-line, O-line candidate, and really his body will determine which position he ends up at.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to Ryan Young with Rivals.
It seems like every program in the country is looking for offensive line help, especially experienced O-line help. How tough is it to find those guys in the portal, and what gives you confidence that you can get that unit advanced from where it was this season?
Well, it is a very competitive environment looking for proven offensive linemen. We feel like we will bring some guys in January. Again, it'll be a competitive recruiting cycle. Once again, we also think there's some guys on the roster who have the ability to improve. I also think some of the things offensively that we'll be doing with that group might give them, some better opportunities. And so just with the RPO game and some of the things that we're going to do run and pass game. So we expect the current roster to continue to improve, and we're going to add competition as long as we feel like the guys that are coming in have the ability to help us, much like the defensive back room.
Okay, we'll go to Jim McGill with Bear Insider.
Saivad Drawali was a guy that really had some versatility this year. Do you strictly see him at DB and specifically safety, or might he flip to receiver where he played a lot of good ball in high school too?
Yeah, right now we're looking at him as a DB. Again, things can change, but that's our plan coming in, is for him to start on the defensive side of the ball. But again, really productive player. It's nice seeing a DB play good on offense, and I think a good example would be Jeremiah Irby. Jeremiah was a really talented high school wideout, and then you saw the ball skills transfer once he got here to playing DB. So we'd hope for the same.
You talked a little bit about Sergio Allen. He's a guy that wasn't on Cal fans' radars until recently, but highly recruited as a prep player. But I guess he was behind some really good players at Clemson.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. A very talented guy in high school, highly recruited for a reason. Played in a very deep room there, and so we think he's got the ability to help us, and glad to add him.
Can you talk also about Mike Flesh? Does he have offensive line contacts that will likely be a part of the mix in your recruiting efforts coming up soon?
Yeah, that's possible. He's got a lot of contacts. Mike's a proven recruiter and has relationships that span the country in terms of offensive linemen, and he's done a great job. He was balancing coaching in his bowl game, which I can appreciate, and wanting to fulfill his responsibility there, and also being active in our recruiting process. So he is now here full-time and grinding, and he's got some, again, his background in college football and his recruiting contacts, that's a pretty significant scope, and so we're looking forward to continuing that process through January.
Has Jake identified the characteristics he's looking for in the ideal quarterback in his system and blending it with your system?
Yeah, I would say, well, we talked at length about this, prior to getting to where we are now, but I think, there's QBs come in different shapes and sizes, and, ultimately it's about getting the best QB on the field that you can and then building the offense in a way that he can be successful. Mobility is a priority. I think if you look at, in this day and age, having somebody that can either be a threat in the run game or, get you out of trouble if the protection breaks down. It doesn't mean that a lesser mobile guy can't play at a high level, but I think mobility is key. Accuracy is always going to be up there. An accurate passer, the processing element, decision making is always key, and then ultimately somebody that can move the team down the field and put the ball in the end zone. And there's again different shapes and sizes, but there's some traits that we both agreed that are most productive when you're looking for a quarterback.
Okay, we'll go to Jeff Ferrato. Go ahead, Jeff.
Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Matt Cindric sort of stepped away from football, I believe our understanding was it was for some health issues. Can you talk about where he's at now in terms of that?
So Matt, he got injured during the season. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seemingly retiring, right?
Not necessarily. He got injured during the season and wasn't able to finish. I mean, he had to have something repaired, and so we talked then about halfway through the season. He was coming up on potentially his 6th year, and so he and I had talked. Probably every couple weeks about how he was feeling, what he was looking for, what his thought process was on making a decision. So we've been in constant contact, and so this is not surprising. However, it's great news. We were hopeful that if he wanted to come back, that he'd be prepared mentally. And 6 years can be a long time, but he's got a lot to accomplish yet. Off the field and on the field, and he shared that with us this morning.
And on another injury front, Cardwell missed most of the season, played I think just the first 2 games for Oregon. Is he healthy now, and is he ready to go? Will he be ready to go in spring ball? We
don't anticipate there being any hang-ups as of right now. And yeah, things happen throughout the year for different guys, but we anticipate him being ready to go.
Does he give you like a counterpunch to what you have, right now with Jade Knott?
Yeah, again, the way we're going to run offense, and I think anybody, you need multiple backs, and Jade Knott is a spectacular player. We think the world of Jaden. He's going to do great things for us, and we think Byron can have a huge impact as well, and there's no reason that you can't also run some 2-back stuff. So we're eager to get them both going.
And Javion Thomas, where does he fit into things? Is he pretty young and raw right now?
Well, he is, but you never really know. I mean, heck, that's why we recruit him. We were trying to get as many good players on the roster as possible, and he is a young man who's got demonstrated speed. And you watch him play in high school, and he is a guy that's very, very difficult to catch, or really people don't catch at that level. So we're looking for that to transfer over, and we'll be glad to get him on campus.
Do you know how many of your freshmen will be with you early?
Well, let's see here. As of right now, put me on the spot here. High school. All these guys are spring right now. So we're looking for, really the transfer guys will be the first ones to join us.
So you don't expect
Yeah.
high school?
Not right now. Some of the guys we're working on it with, and some of the high schools are, these early graduations, some of them are a little bit more difficult, some of the high schools. And so as of right now, it'll be the transfers.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll go to Ryan Young with Rivals.
Going back to Sergio real fast, what was the origin point or connection with him there, being an East Coast guy from Georgia, I think he is, and playing at Clemson?
He went in the transfer portal, and we contacted him immediately, and we did the video evaluation, the academic evaluation, and we started to get to know him. I mean, that's how it works. As soon as they go in the portal, we evaluate them.
But there was no prior relationship with anybody on staff?
Nope. Nope.
Okay, anybody with the final question for Coach? Okay, seeing none, I think we're good.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Go Bears.